Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of INclusiverse. I'm your host, Kally Kaleda, and today's episode is all about non-visible disability. I've got two awesome guests here with me today to talk about their experiences. And we have...
Hi Kally, I'm Jazz Watts. I work for Blue Square on the Samsung account and I've been with Blue Square for just under 2 years.
Welcome, Jazz. And our other awesome guest.
Hi, so I'm Ashley. I've been with Blue Square for just under a year and I am the HR People Operations Manager.
Perfect. Thank you both so much for being here today. And this episode is going to be quite heartfelt. I know you're talking about a lot of experiences that you've both been through, and I feel privileged to be here to be able to guide the conversation and to understand more about both of you. You've been through something similar but different, if that makes sense. So Ashley, let me speak to you first. Talk to me about your non-visible disability. What is it? How did it come about?
Sure. So I've got two actually. So I am deaf in one ear, which is one obviously non-visible disability, but I also had a brain tumour when I was 15 years old. It was a tough time, I suppose, afterwards. Leading up to it wasn't so bad because I didn't have any of the normal side effects that you would say, like headaches, blurred vision, dizzy spells. It was more I would fit on the floor and have like a seizure. So it took a while for it actually to be diagnosed. And then when it was, obviously, I was operated on and the tumour was removed. For me, it impacted me later on, sort of in my early adult life, because people would, as soon as they found out, would look at you sort of like walk on eggshells, that you could be like broken, didn't know kind of how to interact with you. And that was really frustrating for me. So it's something that I don't really disclose widely. It's something that's quite personal to me. But I think it's really important to kind of get that out there, which is why we're doing this today.
Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate you being so open and so honest. And I know we have a couple of questions that we'll go through, and whatever you're comfortable with sharing, we want to hear, especially considering, that may have been quite a while ago for you, but we can see visibly in the studio that this is still something that you carry with you. And I feel like your experiences and your wisdom could really support somebody else who's potentially going through the same thing. So thank you for being here. Jazz, that brings us nicely on to you. Tell us about yours.
So, the summer before lockdown, so 2019 summer, my colleague and I, funnily enough, both went deaf at the same time. She went to the doctors and I didn't. She went to the doctors and they said, it's seasonal. It's to do with a hay fever. It will pass. She came back into work and said, don't worry, seasonal, it will pass. Fantastic. Hers passed, mine didn't. And over the course of those coming months, I started experiencing dizziness, drowsiness, and then slowly that then turned into facial numbness, drooling. It was a really wild experience. And then came these just mega headaches that I just cannot explain, to the point where I was at a place in my life when I couldn't even walk. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom. I couldn't even leave the house. It was just such an experience that just puts you in this tiny little box, and you're ever so confused as to what's going on. Was obviously being treated and looked into for various different things, but not once did I think it was a brain tumour because I looked so well. And I think that's one of the reasons why this is super important to me, is the non-visible side of it. I think it's really important to talk about and be aware of that's there. So 2 weeks before Christmas, I was then told I had a huge brain tumour and I had 3 months to live. That was quite tough. But they said, we can operate on it. We're not sure if it's cancerous or anything like that, but we can operate on it. We don't know what that will do for you, but ultimately you will have a chance of survival. So I was like, hell yeah, whatever needs to be done to get this little lodger out, do what you need to do. And this was January, just as COVID was starting to come in. So I was so fortunate to be diagnosed when I was, and brought in and had surgery. I think it was like a 12-hour surgery with 3 different specialists in their fields. It was really intense. But it came out the other side. So, yeah, that's kind of my story.
Wow. I mean, the pair of you've been through something that's quite traumatic. To be sat in a hospital and basically be told it's either this or the worst possible case scenario. How did that make you feel?
At the time, my focus was on what are my options? So, which made it easier. What are my options? And I think also, to be cheesy about it, at the time I was told it was the run up to Christmas. So around Christmas time is when you have all your family come together, you have all your friends, it's such a loving atmosphere that I really think helped me in January when the surgery was there, because that love was so
prevalent.
Yeah. So that's how I felt.
Did you both have quite a large support mechanism when you found out?
Yeah, I mean, I had all my family around and my friends as well. So that was really important to kind of keep you grounded as well and not to let you spiral.
And Ashley, I know that you mentioned that you wanted to be an air traffic controller, and kind of this experience.
So random, right? Well, don't get that often.
I mean, some kids can wake up one day and they go, "Oh yes, air traffic controller. That's going to be me." But how did this experience kind of affect your outlook on what your career aspiration would be?
It was hard, I suppose, because your whole life when you're at school, you're kind of geared towards, you've got your SAT, you've got your GCSEs, you go to college, you go to uni. It's kind of all prepared for you, and to have something kind of a wall go up almost and say like you can't achieve it, and it's not that you can't achieve it, it's that you physically cannot achieve it. Like you don't have the mental capacity at that moment to continue and do all of those GCSEs, so you have to scale back and do what you're kind of capable of achieving in that moment. It threw me completely. I ended up studying beauty therapy for a year, and then found out in year 2, because I didn't disclose to the college that I had a brain tumour. Year 2, they have a lot of kind of therapies that involve electrical currents, which I wasn't allowed to have, which they didn't know about. And then obviously I had to drop out of college, so that threw that all over the place. It completely changed my career path. I fell into what I do at the moment, to be honest, just working from kind of hospitality, the restaurant industry. I used to open restaurants, so like an ops manager there. And then kind of migrated over to systems migration accidentally through HR, did a lot of traveling. So kind of fell into what I do now.
Even though you fell into it, is this still something that you enjoy?
My job?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love my job. Oh yeah, no. I'm so happy that I do what I do, because for me, having gone through what I've been through, my outlook on life is, if you're doing a job 8 hours a day, you have to enjoy what you do. Nobody needs to like love it and go to bed thinking about your job and waking up super happy, but you need to have a good level of enjoyment in what you do. Otherwise, what is the point? You're just kind of volando through life, you're not really living, I suppose. So I'm so grateful for the job that I do, and I'm so grateful that I get to help in my own way by streamlining processes and really boring sort of stuff for you guys, but I love it. Yeah,
and you're making a difference, right?
I think so. And I think even just on this kind of podcast, as I said, I'm a very private person, but for me to do this is because it's kind of the first safe space.
Yeah. No, that's fun. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate you sharing it with us. And Jazz, I mean, to go through obviously COVID and then recovery and all of that stuff, how did that change your outlook on your career and where you wanted to be?
Fine. So when I was being diagnosed, I was a HR advisor at a company called Bounty, not the chocolate. They had photographers across the field who go around and take pictures of your baby and yourselves in hospital. So I was already in the field of HR, and I knew that I wanted to carry on that journey. For me, the biggest challenge was the confidence. So coming out the other side and thinking, right, okay, I'm not that person anymore. I still love what I do. How can I be my best self and bring myself best self to a role and a company that I really love? And to echo what Ashley was saying there in terms of creating that safe space, this is the only company I've ever worked for where that safe space is felt throughout, regardless of whether you're in central support, regardless of whether you're in the field, regardless of who you are, where you are. Genuinely, it's incredible, and it's extremely, extremely powerful. And I feel so proud to be here today.
It's just that, yeah. It is. Because there's so many organisations that sort of, tick box. They say they want to do things, they want to change, they want to be diverse and all that. And it's like, what actions are you actually taking to achieve that? And it's like, just as for us, just getting this message across, like if you have business, if you have headaches, if you don't feel right, talk to your manager, talk to HR. Like, we are genuinely here to support you, and that you don't go through this alone. Like, we are there to help, basically. So,
and that isn't obviously just this one single scenario. It's everything that life throws at you. Like, we're all people at the end of the day.
Exactly.
We're people who love us around us, and we're so lucky to have such an amazing community, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what the biggest, I hate to use the word, but vibe that I get from both of you is that because you've been through something, you want to make sure that anyone that you are around is not only aware that this could happen to you, but also you have opportunities. You're not limited based on something that you've been through. And I guess a question I wanted to ask around that is, has that changed your approach to interviews? Has that changed how you portray yourselves when you go into interviews, or how you would maybe coach somebody else to go through an interview in an employer?
In an ideal world, people shouldn't be afraid to disclose any disability, visible or non-visible. We all know that it's a kind of work in progress. Some companies are better than others. People's perceptions, you have bias, you have unconscious bias. So I think if people can just learn to kind of treat everyone with respect, educate yourself. If you don't understand something, ask the questions, gain that knowledge, then that will break down those barriers. In terms of interviewing myself, I have never, and I don't think I would at this point, disclose my disability straight up. I don't have that confidence in myself just because of things that I've gone through and how I've been treated in the past because of it. So for me, it's a very kind of cloak and dagger thing. Once I'm in an organisation and I've made those kind of trust circles and those friends groups, then I would say, by the way, I can't hear you, I'm not being rude, or by the way, if I look with blank expression, it's just how I am. It's not intended in any kind of negative way. So,
and also I suppose the language that's used as part of the questioning. So one of the questions is, do you consider yourself to be disabled? And it took me a long time actually to think, I should tick that box because I am. And I think that language, I don't love it, but I understand why we need to ask the question, and perhaps we can position that slightly differently in the sense of, as your new employer, is there anything that we need to know about you? I think that at that point, you might feel a little bit more open to sharing. Because I'm like, actually, I wouldn't tick that box until extremely recently. I wouldn't have ticked that box until I was in. Which is a shame.
It's a shame. We're HR people. We should be at the forefront. Like, no, it's fine. But the reality is there's so many companies out there that just they're not forward thinking. They are,
Have you both been supported by employers previously, or is it something that I know, Ashley, you said that this is the first safe, and you, Jazz, that you felt, safe space in Blue Square. Is this a different experience that you've had at Blue Square compared to previous roles?
For me, I mean, I've did a lot of contracting work, so people didn't really get to know me anyway because I was only with them for short, kind of 1 year contracts or 6 months. I think Blue Square is the first company that I've seen where I genuinely feel that there is like a care for the employee, not just a tick box exercise.
Absolutely. And to echo that, so when I was going through my diagnosis, my boss at the time was fantastic. Absolutely 10 out of 10, amazing woman, great to look up to, still talk to her to this day. And funnily enough, she's the one who actually got me in touch with Blue Square to say, Jazz, you would love this here. I think you should go for this role.
Wow.
And I had an experience of a previous employer when I then had to go a year later after surgery, then I had to go through a period of radiotherapy. And it was a 6-week period. And I remember being so nervous to go and tell my boss, which is silly in itself, right? And I said to her, well, by the way, I have to start this course of radiotherapy at 6 weeks. And her first response to me was, and this is the HR director of a huge global company, turned around and said to me, and how do you think that's going to impact the business? Now I've been like, are you for real? Like, are you actually for real? And it was just the most bizarre. I didn't even think people could even think that way. And that's why when we coach managers through, challenges that their teams are facing and being able to be there and be supportive, that is in the forefront of my mind at every challenge any individual has. How can we support this person rather than be mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
I can't actually believe that happened. That's crazy. What adjustments do you think that more companies could make to be more supporting to people with either visible or non-visible disabilities?
I think like what Jazz was saying, coaching, and just having that kind of awareness that not every disability is visible. And even though somebody is disabled, you know, it's kind of like you don't want to be treated differently, but the reality is you have to have some reasonable adjustments there for you. Not everybody is the same. It's not a one size fits all. So I think from an employer's perspective, if they could just, I don't know, like do webinars, send out like pamphlets, just during the whole kind of process, educate their managers to spot things with their staff members. If there's an employee who perhaps isn't themselves, there's a reason behind that. There's a reason that they're not bringing their best self to work. Like, what is it? Ask them just on a human level to find out if there's anything that you could do or help with, I think.
And I think also for us, we're great in the sense that we are a disability confident employer, which is incredible. And to see that little stamp, I suppose, when you are like, you're like searching for jobs, or as is somebody who is entering into that market to look for a role, it's so important. And I think what we can do to elevate that is continue that journey throughout our time at Blue Square, i.e. could we have like network groups? Could we have like a this is my story type of thing, similar to what we're doing today, just to create that awareness and continue that safe space that we feel is so important and so unique, that I think just to continue harnessing that power.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of brings us on to more of what not only businesses, but Blue Square as a company can do. I know you mentioned webinars and things like that. Would you both feel comfortable holding a webinar, you know, being at the forefront of supporting?
I would have, maybe not like in front of the whole room, but if there was an individual that was going through something similar, like when I found out about Jazz, I was like, Jazz, it's fine. Like, look at me. This is years later. You're going to be like fine. Yeah. And that, you know, we kind of drew strength from each other. So I think if there's anybody else within the business, you know, or our clients that's going through something and they just want to talk to somebody that understands what they're going, sure, give me a ring, send me an email. Happy for that.
I totally echo what Ashley's saying. And I also think from something that I would say is focused on earlier is my confidence. So would I feel comfortable? No. But would I do it? Yes. So I think I would do wherever it takes really to support others. That's where I find my most joy.
Yeah, and you know, all businesses are built on people, right? So if you both felt comfortable to have that one-on-one conversation, it means that, you know, to become a more inclusive employer, yes, we have that stamp to, you know, if you are somebody that has a disability, to show that you're not going to get treated with any bias when you walk into that interview. I think it's really great that the message that you're trying to convey is not just to any business, but to Blue Square especially. We can do more to showcase that not only do we understand the differences between disability, we have people that work for us that have experienced that, and also that, you know, we are actively trying to support not only the employee base that we have, but also maybe somebody that is trying to break into technology or break into marketing, and they're worried, just like you two were, that there may be something that was holding them back. And I think that's a great lesson and learning that any business can take, that, you know, regardless of whether somebody has a disability or not, there are still great people out there that can provide greatness for the business and also support, build that sense of belonging, I think is the big one from what you've both been saying today.
Absolutely, nail on the head.
What kind of advice would you give to others with a non-visible disability who are concerned about maybe disclosing that in future?
Be brave. I think be brave, and that's all well and good for me to say if you don't have the right support around you. But then if you don't have the right support around you, it's find your people, find the people who will help you to have those difficult conversations and support you in doing so, and not to be ashamed of that at all.
Yeah, mirror that. Life's too short. If you've overcome anything in your life, it's life's too short to be treated disrespectfully by people, whether that be colleagues, managers in the street, anybody. So just have love and respect for yourself and find one person to disclose it to, and then build your confidence up I suppose.
Yeah, and from what you've both kind of told me, I don't have any kind of disability, but my mum has got a very severe physical disability. She's got MS. Okay. So from a carer's perspective, I've cared for my mum my whole childhood. Yeah. Like doctor's appointments, being there, injections, the whole shebang. So I can truly understand not only somebody who has a disability looking to find work in an industry that they care about, but also somebody who's been a carer that's looked after somebody with a quite severe disability, whether that's visible or non-visible, to be with an employer where a business is accommodating, like Blue Square is, to be on that journey. I appreciate you both so much for sharing your story with us today. It's been quite a heartfelt one. I feel getting a bit emotional, just like you, Ashley. So thank you so much. And I hope that we get to continue this conversation again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wait, sorry. Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if this is to you or to whoever. So obviously, as a business, we do offer the eye care vouchers for people. When you go to the opticians, sometimes brain tumours, they can be diagnosed through your eyes. They can't tell you what they are, but they see like a shadow, basically, when they take a photo. So if you do get anything like that, then it's worth getting it checked out, and they'll kind of tell you to go to the doctors if they can see any shadow on your retina or cornea, whatever it is. So it's definitely a simple step that we can all take just to make sure that we're looking after ourselves.
And the business is helping us.
Yes, plug that in.
Thank you very much, Ashley. And thank you so much to our viewers and our listeners for the latest episode of INclusiverse, all about non-visible disabilities. We'll see you in the next one.